everyone, it's Judy here. One of my staff members came up to me and was like, I saw this girl microbladed her own eyebrows and can you make a reaction video too? And I was like, oh, sure. She did it at home all by herself. And she was like, yeah. And I was curious how people microblade themselves. So I made a reaction video. It's the first time I've ever seen it. I don't know who she is. It's just my honest reaction to the video. So I hope you enjoy.
Hey everyone, today I'm gonna try to microblade my own eyebrows, which is a really bad idea. There are a lot of risks. You can get infections, you can go to the hospital. I saw this review on Amazon where this woman had a huge bulging thing on her forehead from microblading herself.
Well, first I wanna say at least she knows this is semi-dangerous to do it to yourself. So she's taking full responsibility that if this goes wrong, wasn't a great idea to begin with.
And I promise everything here is as sanitary as I can possibly make it. I have little micro needling pen that I got from Amazon.
So a lot of products that you can just buy on Amazon, you just want to check your sources that it actually came from a place that they sterilize all the needles.
I have ink that's safe for permanent makeup.
So the ink, I don't know where she got it from. One thing about being a permanent makeup artist is that we study the ink that we get. For example, how it eventually fades over time. Is it an organic ink or is it inorganic ink? Because over time it fades different colors. Some fades more warm, like a more red-orange tone, or some fades more cooler tone. So that's why when we mix the colors, we understand how it's going to eventually age, and we put modifiers in the ink to prevent it from fading to a weird, ugly color in the future. So if you don't know what's the base of your ink, it's very easy to just look at the bottle and think, oh, this will fit my eyebrow color. But eventually, after maybe 6 months to a year, especially if she's gonna cut too deep into her skin, it becomes fully permanent, like a tattoo body ink, and it never leaves the skin. So that's some things to watch out for. And obviously she's putting in everything without gloves on, which is probably not the most sanitary thing to do as well. Oh, okay, so the ink she bought is called BioTouch. I think I've worked with this before. I've never used it on a client. I got it in a kit that was like a free microblading kit. It's not my favorite brand. I actually don't really know if it's organic or inorganic brand. So whether if it's gonna fade more cool tone or it's gonna fade more warm tone. She used the color chocolate. Iron oxide. Okay. So there's a bit of iron oxide in the ink. That means it's gonna fade more warm, meaning it'll potentially fade more reddish in her eyebrows.
And I already numbed my eyebrows earlier with Uber Numb. It's just a topical anesthetic cream.
The pre-numb actually is not really a big deal because you can use any pre-numb as long as in the United States, as long as under 5% lidocaine is totally legal. And yes, you could just get it on Amazon if you wanted to.
And I also drew my eyebrows pretty much in the shape where I would want it.
I would say her brow shape that she did for herself isn't bad. No, not mad at that. Hopefully she used alcohol to clean this entire area very well, because you don't want to have any bacteria on the brow area before you cut it into your skin. So then all the bacteria that was on the skin is gonna now go into the skin and you can contract a lot of, infections from that. So hopefully she already did all that prep work.
So I'm going to put the blade on my micro needling pen. To be honest, I think I like to DIY things because I don't like to ask other people to do things for me, and I just have an inflated sense of my ability, so I think I can do everything. I'm loosening this up.
To put on a tattoo, you may think it's a good investment or it's a hefty investment, right? Because in California, the price for a good looking pair of eyebrows is in between maybe $300 all the way to $1,500. The person who taught me charges $1,500 for a set of eyebrows. If you ordered at home, it probably only cost you maybe, $20, and you think it's a good idea to just do it yourself. But the truth is, when ink heals underneath the skin, if it's a little bit too deep, it becomes permanent. And to remove a tattoo is incredibly hard. I'm talking about if you went to a laser tattoo artist to get it removed, you know, it's gonna like bubble up. You have to go through 2 weeks of it pussing, and then the scabs, and the scabs peel off, then hopefully the tattoo lightens. But it can take up to 10 sessions. You know, with saline solution removal also, it can take up to, you know, quite a few sessions to get it removed. And each session is about $150. So if you don't do it correctly, it costs you much more to get it removed than to get it on correctly the first time. All right, so good luck to her.
A little cap ring that you put on your finger, but I don't have that, so I'm just gonna use a bottle cap. I'm not gonna try to completely fill them in. I'm gonna try to make them look as natural as possible, because there are some eyebrows that I've seen that are really microbladed and it looks really fake. So I'm gonna try to make it look good. I'm gonna start from the tail. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm really gonna do this.
Okay, so I see she just placed in her first stroke, just drawing it in as if it's makeup. The thing is, the skin is not stretched properly at this point. So each stroke that goes in is gonna be at different depth of your skin because it's not completely tight and stretched out. What that means is, let's say she placed a stroke into her eyebrow. Some parts of the stroke is going to be deeper than others, right? Some parts are shallow, some parts are deep, some parts are shallow, some parts are deep. So in 6 months to a year, what will happen is the place that's really shallow is going to disappear. The parts that's still deep is still going to stay. So if it heals correctly, it's just going to fade very awkwardly. It will be like one stroke, but the stroke is going to break off in different areas within a few months.
I'm not sure if I'm going deep enough because it doesn't hurt. This is actually much harder to control than I thought. I'm just gonna wipe as I go so I can see where, oh, that's a bad idea. Okay, you know what? Let's just start from the front.
So as you can see, her skin right now, where she's cut, is already kind of bleeding and looking a little bit inflamed. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. Okay, she's stretching a little bit, but this is not a good stretch by any means. That's why I can never do my own brows.
There's a little bit of bleeding towards the tail here, which is expected.
So when she does a tail, how much amount of bleeding that's going on right now, she may have cut it a little bit too deep and will cause, it could potentially cause micro scarring in the future, especially the tail of the skin. It's the most thinnest part of the entire eyebrow. It's very easy to go too deep in that area. And by the amount of how she's bleeding, it may or may not even stay because the blood might be pushing out the ink anyway. She's applying it as if it's makeup, which is probably one of the scariest things because, again, I already mentioned her technique. Like, you really have to stretch the skin so hard and so tight. And when you do it, it's actually a very light implantation of color. You almost shouldn't see, like when she does it, I can see her skin move, the drag, because of, you know, of the cut into the skin. So she may have cut it too deep. But one thing about cutting it too deep too is that it causes so much scabbing in the future that she ends up not really retaining that much ink anyway. So I actually hope she doesn't retain that much ink because it will be very hard to correct if she does.
This sit for a little bit. I think you should do it for like 20 minutes or something. So I'm gonna leave it like this and I'll check back in 20 minutes.
I don't think you need to leave the ink on for 20 minutes. That's a little extreme to me.
So that's what it looks like now. It doesn't look great. Kind of red right now. They're not very symmetrical.
You see how much redness is going on in her skin right now? It's definitely very irritated. And I see her stroke pattern is not the most realistic stroke pattern to put in your eyebrow hair. Like the top almost just looks like one line. you know, you're trying to go for the natural look. You really want to blend all the stroke within your hair stroke pattern.
And I think it's just because when I drew the template, that wasn't very symmetrical, so I kind of just fucked myself over.
Of course, when we design, it takes, you know, for me now, it only takes about 15 minutes, but I know for sure artists who just started, it takes like an hour to get the brows to look as symmetrical as possible. And the reason why we never do it to ourselves is because when we look in the mirror, it's completely different of how somebody else look at you straightforward. And that is why it's very hard to do your own eyebrows symmetrically. And after years and years of looking at yourself, you're already so used to looking at all the asymmetrical part of your face that it no longer looks asymmetrical to you unless somebody points it out to you, like, oh, this eyebrow is slightly higher. You wouldn't even notice it. So then for someone else to design their own eyebrow, it's never going to look very symmetrical.
But the thing that I was the most scared about is them turning out really just boxed out and really unnatural. Like, they don't look done, like they don't look neat or tidy, but they definitely look fuller. I don't know how I feel about them yet, but I'm gonna do a touch-up in about a week. I don't want to leave it like this. Yeah.
Wait, did she say just kidding? I did it the next day?
I'm gonna do a touch-up
I
in about a week.
did it the next morning.
I don't want to leave
just
it like
kidding,
this.
I did it the next morning.
Yeah.
So typically the reason why we do your touch-up after 4 to 6 weeks is because once the skin is open, the scabbing process basically starts almost immediately, like within a few hours. And you never want to open up that skin again within that time frame because you can really, really damage your skin. So when she said, just kidding, I did it the next day, I don't know what she meant. Like, she re-microbladed herself? I mean, I would definitely wait for your skin to regenerate and be in the perfect condition to do something like this again.
I don't want to leave it like this, but I finally got like a general sense of what it feels like to microblade, so maybe next time I can try again and do it better. This really could have gone so much worse, so I'm very thankful that they look acceptable. They don't look great.
So right now, you really cannot tell how well you did until it heals, right? And you really don't know even until you really know how great of a job you did after maybe a year, because it really matters how it actually eventually fades over time. The color that she put in for herself, I think it looked a little bit dark. So what would happen is, if it's looking dark, is her microblading stroke is going to show up so much more than her regular eyebrow hair that it's going to dominate how her eyebrow hair looks. So we'll see how it eventually turns out.
Good as the results you would get from a salon, but you know, they don't look like a disaster.
This is not the result
at the hospital yet.
At all, okay? Day one. So day one after touch-ups. Oh, so she did it the next day.
It's only been 2 days. I did touch up the morning after because I thought they were a little bit too sparse and they weren't thick enough and they weren't very symmetrical, so I did a little bit.
So if the next day she only touched up the places that was sparse, so didn't reblade the previous stroke, then it's okay. If she rebladed a previous stroke, that's probably not a really good idea. So this is day 2, meaning she's already starting the scabbing process. That's why it looks a little bit darker. And typically day 2 looks pretty good because it just looks like a darker version of your own eyebrow. I would say I'm hoping when she rebladed herself the next day, she didn't use her previous blade that she used the day before, because it's probably already very dirty and attracted a lot of bacteria while it's, you know, been opened and stuff. That can cause a lot of issues too.
But after I did the touch-ups, they looked a little bit too dark for my liking, so I want to lighten them up. So what I did was I applied salt water with a Q-tip on my eyebrows to kind of get some of the pigment out. I also put exfoliant on them and used green soap to wash my brows to really just get as much pigment out as possible.
Okay, so she did her homework. She understood how to lighten them. So when we do emergency removals too, we use a professional saline salt removal to put into the eyebrow so it doesn't, it picks out the color inside. I'm not sure which saline solution she used, but hopefully it is, you know, been approved, and not, it doesn't have to be FDA approved, but it's, you know, from a website that sells professional permanent makeup products and not just salt. I think she also mentioned like she was trying to scrub it with green soap. It's just all the things that she's doing right now can potentially give her an infection, like keep opening up the skin while the wound is still open. It's not a good idea. I just read her description. She said what does she do for her like saline solution? She said, I mixed hot water with salt and applied it onto my eyebrows. We don't know what's the salt and water ratio. You definitely don't want to over salt it because it can actually burn your skin with a lot of salt content. But it's not like anything she used, it's natural. But when you don't use enough salt, it also doesn't really do anything. As long as everything she's been using is clean, she should be fine. But I'm just afraid like something is not clean, especially her bottle cap thing. And it looked like it fell. So I don't know if it touched the ground. It's not a controlled environment. You know, when you go to a well-known permanent makeup studio, it's checked by health department. So it's up to code. And either everything is sanitized or it's sterile, right? So just be very mindful of these things. You definitely don't want an infection happening to your skin.
Before my skin like kind of closes up and it starts to heal, it's still gonna take like a week or two to heal. It's going to scab, it's going to itch. So they're not gonna heal like this, but so far I really like them. They're probably going to fade a little bit more over time, which I really don't mind. So here's a close-up. They're still a little bit red and dark because they were cut open. When I did them, I made sure to make the front part a little bit lighter than the rest, which is like semi-successful. I think they're pretty symmetrical. And my tail is definitely not this full without the microblading. But yeah, that's it. I still don't think it's a good idea to microblade yourself, but I'm glad it went okay for me.
Oh, we don't get to see her healed result. I think the photo she was like telling us it was the second day. But by what it looks like on the second day, I doubt she's gonna heal with any color at all. A solution that she added, and also just by rubbing all the green soap on herself, is probably gonna pick out the ink before it even gets to heal with anything there. So yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna heal very light, which is probably good for her at this point, because if each stroke healed too dark, not only that it's gonna look dark, but over time, each stroke will blur out because of, you know, our natural oil in our skin. So it's gonna be a dark and blurred out stroke. That would not be cute. So I'm glad that she kind of did her homework and put some saline solution on to ensure that it wouldn't heal so dark. It wasn't bad actually. I think she did as much homework as she possibly can to do this at home. But it's still, as a professional, to watch this is a little bit scary, especially, you know, self-inflicted pain is hard to do, and she did it. So like props to her. I think the shape she did for herself is actually really good. It's a very good natural shape for her face. I just hope it healed okay and she didn't have any infection, since we didn't get to see exactly what happened during the healing process. So, but I would say though, to get tattoo removed is going to be so much more painful, costly than if you just did it correctly the first time. And I hope you enjoyed that video and learned some things about, you know, how to, no, I wouldn't suggest you to do any permanent makeup by yourself at home. But I hope you learned some things about what microblading actually is and how most people should take it a lot more serious than, you know, what the media makes it out to be. Like it's not a big deal cutting into your own skin. It actually is. Infections can happen, and also removal is much pricier and it's much more painful than getting on a tattoo in the first place. So just be mindful of those things. And you really don't know what the color is going to turn into in a year to 2 years because you haven't studied color theory, you know, as most permanent makeup artists will study during their training process, or they should. So try not to do this at home. That's my suggestion. Please subscribe to my channel and hit a like if you like this video. Bye.